Welcome to Her Story, the podcast where we share the real, behind-the-scenes journeys of founders who are shaping our Space Coast and Treasure Coast communities.
This show is about the stories that don't always make it to social media, the turning points, the risks, the lessons learned, and the moments that quietly change everything.
We sit down with founders and small business leaders to talk about where they started, what they've overcome, and what it truly takes to build something meaningful.
Her Story is produced in partnership with weVENTURE Women's Business Center. It elevates small businesses and inspires the next generation of entrepreneurs to pursue their ideas with confidence.
You do not have to build alone. There's an entire community ready to help take your ideas from vision to reality.
Whether you're a business owner or a dreamer in the early stages, or someone who loves supporting small businesses, this show is for you.
This is Her Story. Hi, Stacey. Welcome to the Her Story podcast. We are so excited to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Thank you for having me. I'm Stacey Clark, and I have been in senior living since I was 15 years old. Started as a volunteer and never left it. I'm a registered nurse and did some various different nursing roles, but my heart is in senior living. So in my whole career, I basically have been in corporate America. And in 2022, I stepped away to start my first business, which was consulting and management. And then in 2023, started the second one, which is basically owning my own assisted living, co-owning my own assisted living.
That wasn't too long ago, too. 2022, 2023, that was like just a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, my business partner and I, we used to do happy hour. I joked around, in this industry, it's very stressful. It can be very rewarding. It can be very fun, but there's a lot of stressors that are involved in senior living. And I remember one of them, we were both working for the same company, and it was very stressful. And I just said, we just need to start our own thing. Like, we just need to do our own thing.
That's how it starts, with that one little comment. It's so innocent, but.
And so we just kind of kicked some things around. And then I joke around, if I had left it primarily to him, we'd probably still be talking about it. He'll see this later, but
because it takes a woman.
It does.
How many years of happy hour did it take?
Oh gosh, 5 or 6 probably. Just again, we should do that. We should do that. We should do that. One day I was like, I'm sick of talking about it. I just want to do it. So created Virtuous Senior Living and got everything done. Of course, I knew nothing about how to start a business, what I needed to do, how do I do tax, all of that stuff. And I ended up basically putting it on the shelf for when I needed it. And then about 3 months after that, I got a call from my first client who had known me since I was 15 and had some struggling in his building and said, I'll give you your first contract. And so then I resigned from my corporate job. And had I not started it or had it on the shelf, I wouldn't have been able to walk away when I did. But it was all total God thing.
So I want to know more about what you talked about during happy hour. What were those recurring themes that brought you to that turning point where you said, enough is enough. I've got to do this myself, and the driver behind that?
I think the biggest thing for us is both of us were kids. I mean, I was 15, he was 21. We worked together for almost 30 years now, I think.
And where was
At the
that?
Fountains in Melbourne's where we started, almost 20 years there for me, and he was there almost 23 or 24.
How did you get involved with the Fountains
My
at 15?
mom. My mom.
And what were you doing?
Playing the piano and singing for the residents for a sing-along.
That's amazing.
That's adorable.
What was that experience like?
Well, it was kind of one of those, I'm a teenager, I needed Bright Futures hours for a scholarship. My mom said, hey, I know the executive director at this place and they'd love to have you. And I went in there the first time to play for them and sing just, some of I had to learn their songs, right? I'm 15, I don't know songs from the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, but I had to learn them. I had to learn them.
Or the Spice Girls.
Yeah. And I fell in love with the generation. I fell in love with their stories, and they were just so accepting and warm and wanted, they enjoy having people come in and do that. And then that kind of grew. I started calling bingo.
Oh, that's so fun.
For them. It was fun. It's their highlight of their week. 3 or 4 times a week. And then I got a job. I worked, basically was kind of working there 3 or 4 days out of the week. I was at Palm Bay High School, so I just came over after school. And so they hired me part-time, and then the rest was history. I went and got my CNA license and worked as a caregiver for a number of years, got my RN license, worked as their director of nursing, and then just kind of promoted up through there. But
So
always working with my
At
partner.
the fountains.
Yeah.
So how many years total?
Just a month shy of 20.
Wow.
Dang. That's a long career with them.
Yeah. But it was a privately owned company. The owner was fantastic. He was light years above all of these other senior living companies. He was very strategic, very smart. I learned a lot. In that 20 years, I would say it catapulted my ability to do what I'm doing now. Because a lot of the training and education, now we put executive directors in roles and we just pray they can make it. You know, we don't have the time or the resources sometimes to give them all of that
Really
training.
on board.
And so I credit, I mean, to this day, I still credit the Fountains and the owner of that company for my success, because
It really
I would
made
not
an
be.
impression on you.
Yeah.
So you started as piano girl and then left as the executive director?
I did. Yeah.
Wow.
And then Jamie and I ended up in a company where we were both VPs of operations, traveling the state. I had 14 communities. I don't remember how many he had, but
Jeez.
that's kind of what started it. So we'd be on the road and be like, hey, let's meet here. And it was really just to complain about the day or complain about the corporate office,
Yeah,
you know.
someone that would get
Yeah,
it.
lovingly. But at the end of the day, what really catapulted it for us, I think, is having come from the Fountains in Melbourne, where it was people focused. Everything was culture. And that's a buzzword, but it was truly people. About the employees that we worked with, the residents we served, the families. It wasn't just a job.
Yeah.
It really, you're creating that relationship as an extension of your family. And so then when you're in corporate America, in some cases, corporations have third parties that they answer to. They use different types of investors. And it's
Right.
not
It's a
about the
lot of
people, it's about
layers.
the money.
Yeah, the bureaucracy gets
You can't help
thick.
the people
Yeah.
on the ground because you have 50,000 reports and 41 phone calls. And we just got tired of chasing that and trying to make people happy that really that's not what we got. You know, I'm not here. I know an investor needs to make money, but I want to be able to look at the employees that I'm serving and be able to make sure that they get what they need to take care of the residents. And so ultimately, that's why we stepped away, why I wanted to create the company.
So it was your ability to actually support and take care of the staff that were taking care of the residents. So tell me more about that, because I feel like that's a big part of the vision that you had. Tell us about the vision and what the most important things are to you that are now driving your new businesses.
Yeah, the vision, Virtuous Senior Living, we came up with that name really just because what we're about is really trying to do the right thing. And I feel like it may cost you more money, may cost you more time, but it will always pay off in the end. And I try very hard not to veer from that in any of the functions I've ever worked in. I try to always do the right thing, even if it's the most unpopular opinion.
Good for you. I love that.
And so that's kind of our basis for Virtuous. It's kind of like, I'm not going to look at an owner and say, I'll do XYZ if I really can't do XYZ. I'm not going to, give you some fluff. I want you to know if it's not possible, I'm going to tell you it's not possible.
Yeah.
And then for Nested Story, the biggest thing for us is we took what we knew in those larger facilities and we brought those important things into the smaller setting, that we could basically give the residents the same type of lifestyle and expectation, but on a much smaller scale, so you can give more personalized care. But at the heart of all of that is the people that serve the residents. I can't do what I do without good staff. And in the buildings that we support, I help recruit, primarily because that's something you don't have a lot of time for. You're busy taking care of residents, handling emergencies, dealing with families. It's like, oh, you want to apply to be a CNA? Great, you look great. Let's ask you a couple of stupid questions and we're going to give you the job because we think you can do the job. Without really vetting that person, really understanding their motivation. Why do they want to work here? Why do they want to take care of seniors? And that makes a huge difference.
Do you actually sit in the interviews then?
Yes, so I actually review all of the resumes as they come in through Indeed, make the preliminary phone calls for pre-screen. And really what I'm trying to do on the phone is build a rapport. If I can't get you to laugh, if I can't get you to connect with me in 5 minutes on the phone, the reality of you going into a senior living community with residents that can't hear you, may not be able to see you, very rare. And that's just my experience over the last 30 years. And so it helps the communities because I'm not wasting their time. So if I'm sending them an interview, it's almost a 50% shot that they could potentially be a good fit. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, but it's worth it because the people that we hire are what makes the difference. What makes a good community versus a mediocre community is really who you hire.
I love the specifics of what you just shared, and even down to if I can't make you laugh in 5 minutes, that's a red flag for you.
It's telling.
That's so telling. Oh my God, I think that's
Yeah.
amazing. And that should be across the board, across any industry. Like if there's just no personality shining through, because nerves is one thing, but come
and
on.
usually if I think it's nerves, I'll usually say something like, "Are you nervous? Like, don't be nervous with me." I try to, give them a sense of me as a person to try to help soften that. And then I help a lot because people in our industry, it's cyclical. They leave one job, they go to the next job, they go to the next job. So I recognize names very well, and so it's like, oh well, we had to let that person go, unfortunately, in this community. There were issues or concerns. I'm not going to keep rehashing that.
Right.
But there are times where, I've misjudged sometimes, I'll say, listen, and I'm not even looking for experience anymore. We used to say you have to be a CNA or you have to have experience here.
Interesting.
And we don't have enough interest, I don't feel like, in this field like we used to.
Interesting.
And so I'll take somebody that has no experience, because if you have the right personality, you're teachable, you're flexible, you're kind, you're able to kind of go with the flow. I can teach you how to take care of somebody, but I can't teach you the soft skills of being a person and loving and being compassionate. I can't teach that.
Yeah.
And so that usually never works.
And you've seen the difference in culture and difference in care and difference in the quality of outcomes. When you go in to assess a senior living community, is that the first thing you look at?
Yeah. So when I take on a new potential client, up front, I do what I call a community assessment. And it's usually a full day. Sometimes it's a day and a half. Depends on the size of the community. Sometimes I can get it in a half a day. Just depends. Because we represent communities as small as 14 beds all the way up to, say, 150. And all I'm doing is just sizing up what's going on. I'm looking at how people interact. I look at how managers talk to each other. I look at how staff walk around. How do they take care of people? I'm not even asking questions. Eventually I'll get financials and I'll look and see, what are those, do they need sales and marketing efforts? Do they need help with whatever? But the biggest thing that I'm doing is really sizing up the team. Because again, with the right team, with teachable people, with good people, you can go far. I can change a lot of outcomes. But if I have the absolute wrong team, forget it. Because you have to almost change it before you can.
So it's companies that really care that bring you on board to do this.
It's really mostly companies that have an owner that's not really an operator. So they may be a small owner who doesn't or can't afford a management company, because a lot of them they base it off revenue. So it can be pricey for some. Or they may have had a bad experience, or they just don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And Jamie and myself, we've been in this, we're born and raised in Brevard. And so we kind of have all those connections. And so they'll bring us on. Sometimes it's just a little task like, hey, I have one client where they're like, we are all brand new managers. We've never managed people before. They're great people, but they've never had skills to manage and resolve conflict, or to, manage peers that they've worked with before. And so they brought us on basically just to help them with that, how to work as a team, how to function as a team. And that's a ton of fun, because you get to see their growth from start to finish.
And you set them on a good track.
Yeah.
Do you feel like some of them don't believe that it's possible to hire all the right people?
100%. 100%.
So a lot of it is really you leading by example and letting them know that you can set a standard.
Yeah, I think in our industry, we kind of get a bad rap sometimes because it's the rat race. Everything's so busy. I never have time for my family. I never have work-life balance. I'm constantly at work. I'm constantly getting phone calls. People are calling off at 3 a.m. That's the vibe.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, that's the absolute wrong vibe.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you a good executive director if you're constantly needed all the time. That doesn't make you good at your job.
Yeah.
You need to put systems in place and have the right people so that you can enjoy a work-life balance. It is possible. And for me, I always go back to the Fountains, because that was a culture that I was fortunate enough to grow up in, basically, my whole life.
Yeah.
And I got to see firsthand what it's like to have the right employees, the right support, the right oversight, the accountability. So I could take you to the Fountains. My grandmother lived there just until the very last days of her life in independent living for 8 years. I can take you there today, and I could still show you the dishwasher that's been there since I hired him 25 years ago, who gets your same birthday. I could tell you the housekeeping team that's all been there 20 plus years. You don't find that. It's very rare that you can walk in a building anymore especially that large.
Yeah.
It's the largest one we
says
have at
something.
300,
Yeah.
265 units. For you to be able to walk in there and be able to, like, I could point out people that that's their life. They could go anywhere else. They've been recruited, trust me, because there's some I've recruited, but they're not going to go anywhere because they're
lifers.
and they're connected with the residents. And 9 times out of 10, that's why they won't go anywhere, because they love those residents and that's like their family. But having grown up in that, I know it's possible.
They really set a good foundation for you then.
It's a great company.
Awesome.
So, and the Nested Story, it's great because we just kind of took a lot of the things out of the larger facilities, some of the safety features, activities, the way we do a lot of those types of things, food, what we know they like. And we've basically put that into Nested Story. And a lot of our residents come from the Fountains. A lot of our ladies have lived at the Fountains in those large 2-bedroom apartments. So they're used to having a certain style, and it's just a nice transition. Yeah, Nested Story, I've always wanted my own, and really just so that I could control the variables. It's hard when you're in a larger facility. You can hire the best people too, but you can have scenarios, they're larger. So you have residents that are in their own apartments and long hallways. There's a lot you really don't see. You can't help them control because they still want their function of independence.
Are you talking like safety things, just like logistical things?
Like they could be a major fall risk. Not remembering to grab their walker, not remembering to push their pendant when they need help. And if they're in an apartment down a hallway, I'm not going to see that until they're on the floor. Where in Nested Story, it's 14 ladies living there in a home that's got 10 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms. And if they're a fall risk and I watch them get up, I'm going to let them exercise their independence, but I'm able to get to them before hopefully they fall.
Because you've had a hand in designing the property?
Actually, it was already designed. It was, it's really a kind of a cool story how we ended up with Nested Story.
Tell the story. Tell the whole story.
In 2019, I wanted my own. I really did. And we found this home down in Malabar, about 10 minutes from my house. And it was owned by a woman she had 4 residents living there at the time. And it's unlike anything I'd ever seen. Nice setback, rounded driveway, just a beautiful setup, really, on a ton of acreage. And that's actually how I met Maylee first.
Living.
It was, yeah. It was originally built as an orphanage. A guy built it in the early 2000s for 10 kids or something. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So it's got like 2 bedrooms, Jack and Jill bath, 2 bedrooms, Jack. It's well designed with all the common areas in the center.
Yeah.
And so when I went and looked at it in 2019, she wanted way too much for it to make sense for us. And at that time, it just was like real fast closed door. Like, great idea, but not your time,
Yeah.
Had I gone through with it, I probably would have been done in by COVID, with that small business that would have.
Everything.
Yeah. So COVID happened, and luckily I didn't have to try to recover. And I think that's ultimately what hurt her was the COVID, a lot of our smaller facilities that it really did.
So that really bought you time to flesh out the idea then.
Yeah, but I kind of forgot about it. Honestly, it was kind of like I got busy with consulting and I was like, never really thought about it until Maylee, she's another amazing person, reached out to me and just said, hey, I have this other assisted living. I want you to go take a look at it. And I was like, okay. And so we went, and it wasn't that one. But and it was a reasonable ask, but it was not one that I could have made my own. It was turnkey. I would have taken it and just kept running it, and it just was not what I wanted. But at that time, I was like, okay, now my wheels are turning. Like, now maybe I do want to look for something else.
Was this 2021, 2022?
This was 2022.
Okay.
And or 2023. 2023 is when we closed on Nested Story.
Yeah.
And so it was in July. And so I started thinking about, okay, well, let me just look around. I went on Zillow, and that same house from 2019 was on the market.
Meant to be.
Yeah.
So,
and Maylee got me in there the next day. We got to see it. We gave the offer. And immediately it was vacant. It was no longer an operating business. They had stopped the assisted living. And immediately I was just like, my brain was going, like, I could make this, we could put this here. And I was already decorating it in my head,
Had they dropped the price too?
Yeah, it was really just for the real estate. Because it was no longer a functioning business. So.
Oh, right. So it's just the property.
And so that's where Valley comes in. We kind of went through a couple different banks. We didn't have, I'm a mom of 4, and I'm making it just like everybody else, So it's not like I was sitting on any sort of nest egg or any sort of cash. Neither was Jamie. And so we started just trying to find banks. Maylee was helping us with that, and that's how we found Valley. And Valley made our dream come true because they really they gave us the loan, and they interviewed us and kind of learned what we were about, and we gave them resumes, but they made it happen, and we were able to close on that property in October. And then we did about 6 months worth of construction, redoing some things that I felt would make it happen. And then 11 months later, we were full with a wait list.
At Valley Bank, there isn't a how we haven't heard.
How?
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 How do we pay for these?
How do I pass down what I built?
How do we grow with someone who gets it?
How do I go from here to there? How do we afford a bigger place?
How do I make this work? Listening is how.
Understanding is how.
Caring is how.
Valley Bank, that's how.
Wow.
11 months later.
That's incredible.
Full with a wait list.
You already had your
Yeah.
marketing up and running and all of that. Had you guys
Well,
already
thanks to
talked?
Kylia.
Okay. I mean, so you brought her on really early.
We did. And
project.
honestly, for me, it was more, we had the connection in the market. So we were already talking up, hey, we're going to start our own. So a lot of these larger facilities, like the Fountains and some of the others that we support, already knew and were very supportive of what we were doing. And everybody knows and understands the value of that smaller setting.
Yeah.
So while it started slow, that's kind of what we wanted. Because again, I've been doing this so long, but it's proof of concept. So you think you want all these things done these certain ways, and then you open and you're like, wait a minute, that's not going to work.
Need to
it's
do
not going
this
to, right.
and that.
So it really helped to kind of bring on a couple at a time.
For sure.
And but we had no problem after that. And then it just became word of mouth. Obviously, Kylie helped us with the branding and the
Yeah,
marketing.
your
and,
website looks spectacular.
Yeah, thank you. She did a great job. And we get a lot of traffic that
Story
way.
is amazing. Like nested story. And it's
wow.
got that
Is
really
it-
warm and cozy feeling.
I wanted it to feel like my grandparents, my grandmothers would have wanted it. And I know Laura Ashley,
Yeah.
the theme is, very simple yet functional.
A little country.
And
It is
meaningful.
very country.
It's so
Okay,
meaningful.
cute.
Like recipe. It's from families are on the wall frames.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so Jamie and I have worked together so long. We've both taken care of both of our sets of grandparents at the Fountains and at Nested. And so it was important to us to incorporate them in our design. So when you come into Nested store and you look in the kitchen, there are 8 recipes that are framed, that are handwritten. It's their actual
Oh my God,
recipe.
that's so special. Yeah,
so
that's really
amazing.
cool.
From all of our
That's
grandmas.
so,
and
so cool.
the name came from basically when we knew we were going to buy this property. It was my family. We had kicked around a ton of ideas, Jamie and I, and then my family's very involved in Nested Story. They've known my heart and my passion for taking care of people. And when I do an event at Nested, you can count on my brother, my sister.
showing up.
Everyone's
They're all
there.
there usually, yeah.
I love that.
My mom, she volunteers with us. And so we were just kicking around the idea one day, and I kept saying, it's like taking our story and mixing it with the residents' stories. They all have so many stories to tell, but we have a great story. Like, we've never left this industry. We're very passionate about it. I'll help anybody, whether you're looking for your loved one or you're looking to start your own bit. Like, I just want, again, I want to do the right thing. And we were kicking around ideas, and my sister and brother, we were all on the porch, and my sister was a former teacher. And she says, throw some words at me. And so I just kept throwing words, and she settled on Nested Story, and which means basically a literary iteration of a story within a story.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, no, I don't like it.
You have to sit with these.
You do.
words. They have to grow.
I
in
didn't
you.
like it. I was like, it
Yeah.
just, there's no other, if you went onto the website to look up assisted livings in Brevard, you would find people's initials. You would find,
With the word home in it.
yeah. And I was like, Nested Story, like nobody's going to know what the heck that is. But then that's where the branding came in.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't get rid of it, couldn't shake it. And I told Jamie, I was like, I think this is our name. And he struggled with it first too, because he was kind of like, it just doesn't roll off the tongue at first.
Yeah.
But once we went through the branding session and we were able to make it come to life, I couldn't imagine anything else. It truly has the meaning, and it really is their next chapter.
I love that it came from you guys and not a marketing professional. Like, it truly came.
It had to be a true expression of the heart and the vision. And you and Jamie both have such a beautiful story. And actually, I want to go back into a little bit more of your origin story, because you have such a deep connection to family. And there are a few people, and maybe one that I know of, that made a really big impression on you at a young age.
Yeah, my grandmother and grandfather, my mom's mom and dad, were always a part of our life. Like, we're blessed, I think, truly. We were born and raised here in Brevard. Our family was all local. every Sunday was a Sunday dinner after church at my grandma's house. Like there was
So
it just became
special.
something, I don't remember a Sunday without that, right?
Wow, that's
Isn't that
amazing.
wild?
Christmas
Yeah.
was always,
Yeah.
Christmas Eve, and it was at grandmother's house. And so I grew up with them, and I was fortunate enough, because I was the first grandchild, I think, I got to spend a lot of time with them. They would take trips in the summer, and one summer I was really into the Anne of Green Gables series. Love the Anne of Green Gables series. And one summer packed me up. My mom let me go for a whole summer, and they had a fifth wheel, and we drove from Florida all the way to Maine, took the ferry to, it was
cool.
the most meaningful trip, but it was just me and them and my cousin. And, but you learn a lot, they cuss at each other a lot. You learn how 50 some years of marriage works, you see it firsthand.
Grandma, that mouth.
But it was precious time with them, and looking back, I realize how special that is. When I talk to friends and family that don't have that,
So many don't.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
I don't think the norm.
And so it became really early on for me. He ended up getting Alzheimer's. He was,
Oh man.
I think, out of all of his brothers and sisters, they all ended up with dementia or Alzheimer's of some form. And just walking them through that journey, they lived together, and it was me really that had to say to the family, enough's enough. Like, it's time. We have to place him. She's going to end up getting hurt. She resented me for a little bit for that because it was the love of her life. And
That's an impossible situation.
but it made it really important for me. Even at that point, it was like, it has to be good enough for him, right? It has to be good enough for her. And that became kind of our mission. It's like, and I tell families that now to this day if they tour. If it's not good enough for my own grandmother, it's not good enough for her, and I promise you that's what you're getting here. But they were very, very inspirational in my life, and they were fortunate to have great care their whole lives. But it was my why. It truly, I was able to see the good in all of that, and I wanted that to continue for everybody that may end up in a spot in their life where they really do need help.
So deeply personal for you.
Yeah, you can really relate and have empathy and compassion for people that are actually going through that transition, because whether you're the son or daughter or the spouse, like, it's such an emotional journey, and you've learned to really wrap around them and give them so much love and comfort through that process. It's such a special thing. I feel like
Yeah,
certain
caregiving
people
is
have to
stressful.
be cut out for this industry. Not everybody's cut out for it.
I tell everybody it's relationship. 90% of what we do is relationship with people. It's great when, Nested Story, the staff that work for us, more than half of them worked for me back in 2006, 2007 as caregivers at the Fountains. So they found out we were opening, and they were like, we want to come work for you.
Yeah.
And so, to have that connection, and then to have families where I've taken care of their loved one, maybe in another facility that I opened back in early 2020, and now they need assisted living, but they don't want to go anywhere but Nested Story because they want to be with us. Like, those are because you've maintained those relationships, and it pays off. And it's not for the business. It's, not for the money. It's really because I deeply want that person to get the best care. I want them to not have to, I don't want a family to worry that they're going to get a phone call every night because mom's not doing what she's supposed to do. She's falling. She's, potentially getting hurt. I want to look a family in the eye and say, I've got it. Go live your life. Come be the daughter again, but let us take care of her. And, and just little things. You can't do that when you're in a corporation because it is the rat race. You're just,
There's so many wheels turning.
tasks.
It's layered. It's, you've got such a strong family foundation, and then you experienced it at the Fountains. And so tell me how that family type relationship plays into how you build relationships with staff that really turns them into these lifers. What is the aspect of building that relationship that really makes you all bond and connect you?
That's a good question. I would have to say it's probably a combination of fun. You got to have fun. The job is tough. There are situations where, even to this day, whether it be a hurricane, because we deal with all that, and you're sheltering people in place and you're responsible for their life in the middle of, crisis. You have to find a way to build that foundation and I do it through fun. I want you to never look at it as a job. You're coming to take care of people, and you're appreciated and you're loved. It's not uncommon for me to say to a caregiver on my way out the door, love you, thank you so much for what you do. And it's genuine. It's not, and for them to say it back. And it's it's not because I have to, it's because I genuinely do love them. I couldn't walk out the door and go home and enjoy my family for the next 8 hours if they weren't there providing the care that they provide. And so I think, first of all, you have to have a foundation with that relationship of, I'll do anything for you. You need PTO. If I can make it happen, I'm going to give it to you because you deserve to have it. It makes it easier when you like the people too, right? You know, so that goes back to hiring right, having the right people.
Yeah.
But I think just getting to know them as a person. You know, one of the things I learned from Jamie early on, because he was my boss for a while.
Yeah, and I want to go into that next. I want to hear about that dynamic and relationship.
He was my boss for quite a long time. And one of the things that I learned from him was really listening to employees and doing the unexpected. I mean, I can remember when we were working together one year for back to school, it was tough times for some of the staff, and he went and got all of their school lists and had all of their school supplies in a bag and gave it to them.
How cute is he?
Like, just meeting a need. You know, learns that people love their car. And so one of the motivations, it was like, you go get me XYZ move-ins, you know, help us fill whatever. I'll have your complete car detail. Just, he's very creative at learning what would make somebody tick. And it's not just, here's a $50 gift card. Here's $100 more.
It's
meaningful.
personal and meaningful.
We used to give turkeys every year to the staff. At Thanksgiving, they would come in and we would hand them a, turkey for them to go home and have Thanksgiving with their families. The little things like that. So I learned that from him early on. You get to know them and you make it truly about them. And so our staff, same thing.
Hearing all of this, it's like so warm fuzzies. Had I known you guys existed when my dad was going through, he had a stroke and it was debilitating. He was bedridden, couldn't eat, speak, drink water. It was really bad. But to know that I would have brought him over from California.
It gives you so much hope, right? Like
that people actually care at this level.
Enjoy
that peace of mind. Like you said, like go live your life and come and be a daughter and just visit and
trust us. We got your family.
It's just validating feelings. And I think over the years, I'm known in the industry as telling it like it is. I'm professional about it, but I don't sugarcoat it because families need that. And there's times where my mom, for instance, she has a lot of friends that are now in that sandwich generation. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'll call and I'll listen and I'll say, you know what you need to do? Stop feeling guilty and just like,
the guilt.
You have to, you have to validate the feeling. I know that's how you feel, but you need to get over it. Like, you should not feel that way. It just,
now you can let it go.
Every situation is different, but I find myself more and more I like being the resource. There's so many choices here too. And there's so many good places, so many good people want to do the right thing, but sometimes it's just not the right fit. And you can get bogged down in the details because there's so many choices and so many placement opportunities. And to be able to break it down and say, what's most important to you? And for me to say to you, that's really not, care is the most important. So you got to let these other things, it may not be the biggest apartment, may not be the prettiest, newest place, but you're going to get the care that you need. You're going to get what you need. And so I like being able to be used for that as well.
I think that's your superpower, Stacey, that you can relieve people of guilt, because that's huge to harbor that guilt in this chapter of their lives, what to do with their parents. Ooh, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, you understand that.
I think having gone through it personally.
You've gone through it. What I really love about everything that you've built is that you understand the value of being treated like a human, like a person, being seen as an equal, and you don't expect them to only care for the residents and not be cared for the same way themselves as a staff member. And you've really normalized that to be a reciprocating thing for everyone, from you to the staff in return, and then that impacts the care that they get to the residents.
Absolutely. I'm very cautious about how I do the schedule. You never work more than so many days in a row. If you want to pick up, that's fine. But if I realize you're tired, I'm going to say, hey, I've got it.
I mean, that's so
important.
That's so amazing, because it's like people don't realize that you can adjust for that. Like that rat race. It's just kind of like, no, we all got to work 40 hours. We all got to do it. You just got to suck it up. But you can actually allow people to be human at the same time and adjust for those things, and then figure out where they're strongest and how to really support them.
We recognize life happens. At the end of the day, you're not a caregiver on the schedule to me. Your name is Kylia, and you work for me, and you provide an amazing service. And I want to know who you're married to, how many kids do you have, what drives you, what do you do outside of here? what motivates you? What do you enjoy most about your job? How am I learn through behavior and just watching. I can tell when you're stressed,
hands-on. Yeah, you're such a hands-on founder. It's unusual to have your hands in so many different areas of the business.
You kind of have to, though. I feel like it brings an element. For instance, if I'm short, I'm going to work with them. Like, I'm not going to leave you working short.
Yeah, you jump in because you're still
I'll do
a
it.
nurse.
It's great for me because I get to see and hear things.
So you'll like throw on scrubs and like be a part of the team?
Mm-hmm. All next week. All 5 days next week, I'm helping out.
Wow.
Like,
yeah,
you just had
amazing.
a recent situation where one of your staff got in a car accident,
Oh,
and you
yikes.
stepped in and covered the shifts, and you still
We
were
all
able to
do,
provide
because it's a
support.
family. You just really, you love each other. Again, it really, you say warm and fuzzy, and sometimes I have to pinch myself, and I thank God every day, because I'm just like, I'm so blessed. But it's fruits of I'm not accepting of the status quo. I've never been a mediocre. Like,
Love it.
And I tell my team, when I used to work at the fountains, and I had a ton that I worked under me, and I used to say, when you get comfortable, get ready, because I'm fixing to turn it up. Like, there's no
things that
there's a new thing I want to try, or there's always, I always tell them, don't get comfortable, because I don't like the mediocre. I always try to elevate the experience, and
I love that you expect more from people. That's amazing.
they'll do more, and it helps them grow. I tell them all the time, like, you want to go to nursing school? Go to nursing school. Like, if I can help pay for it, I want people to know that it's not a job you're stuck in. And I think sometimes a lot of people think, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. And granted, we need people like that. We do, but you got to be passionate. It's just like in education. When you're no longer a teacher that's passionate, it's probably time for you to find something else, because you're built. And I say teacher because my husband's a principal. So education and healthcare kind of go together. But you have to love what you do and be passionate about it. And the day that I can no longer wake up and I can't be excited for what I'm doing will be the day that I say, okay, maybe I need to go water plants at Lowe's, or go work at, it's time. You have to be able to lead others. You have to be able to inspire.
Can we talk about your business partnership?
Sure.
I would love to hear about that dynamic, because you said you started off, he was your boss.
Mm-hmm.
And so what are the roles now? How do you divvy things up between the two?
Yeah, we at the fountains, we were peers for a while, and then he became my boss for a good number of years. And then I used to tell him all the time, I'm going to take your job. And I did.
That's one way to make
when
friends
he left.
at the office.
Yeah, when he left, went to California and took his job.
Okay, when he left.
Yeah, it's always been a great partnership, friendship, and I almost say it's funny, because it's between him and my husband. It's like they both know
Your work husband.
Yeah, it's funny. He knows when I'm fixing to get aggravated about something, or when I'm mad. He knows how to calm it down. He knows when I get on my tangents, just to shut up and listen. Just let me. I'll eventually get there, but he's been a great support. And honestly, I couldn't imagine doing this with anybody else. He and I have worked together so long that we recognize the same things are important. So I'm not fighting against somebody who wants to save money to create more of a business model where we're both going to get filthy rich, where I want to take that and I want to give that more to employees, or I want to give that more to our staff or our residents. And so we are aligned, and that makes it a lot easier, because I'm not working with a partner we're not in lockstep.
That's a rarity, though, to be that aligned.
Yeah, sometimes it's dangerous, because I need somebody to, he tries to stop me. I need that, boundary sometimes. Yeah, like, Stacey, we don't need to spend, But the dynamic now, while I am the primary owner, it really is a partnership. I don't see myself as his boss. I don't see myself as us competing at all. We know what has to be done. We both have done it so long that I can say, can you cover this building this week with XYZ, and I'm going to cover this over here. And then together, we always end up at Nested. There's always something at Nested Story that, we're cooking or trying to help them, or, doing an inventory. We always find a way. It works.
So the schedule's always different, and the roles
Every day
kind
and
of
week is
change and
different.
evolve with whatever's going on at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's not like he does this, I do this. There's a lot of overlap.
Yeah. With me being a nurse, a lot of my oversight in a lot of communities is the clinical side, medical side, managing risk, helping with that piece, where his strength is more on the operational side, capital projects, design, a lot of those tedious things that a lot of times I'm like,
that you find tedious. You might love.
Now I
So
feel
you complement each other too
do.
with your different focuses and different strengths, but united in the goal.
Yeah.
United in the priority being the people,
Yeah.
the staff, the relationships, the actual experience that you guys are creating as a whole.
Yeah. And we both say, like, after a long, hard day, the best place to go is Nested Story. Like, it is.
Oh, I love that.
It is rewarding. It is, I mean, we sit back and sometimes I'm like, I don't know how we got so lucky. Like, we're blessed. Like, to be able to walk in here and have these ladies that are thriving and families that are just absolutely lovely and wonderful to work with. We don't deal with the things that a lot of other communities deal with because it's fun. You know, you get to see them thriving. I mean, we're taking them to see Annie this weekend at Cocoa Village Playhouse. There's like 6 of them going. But you get to do those fun things, you know?
Yeah.
And it's rewarding, very rewarding.
What's the hardest part of your job?
I would say the hardest part, on the consulting side, the hardest part of our job is staffing still. Because I can get them there, but I can't help you. I'm not there to keep them, right? So I can get you good people, but if it's the wrong environment, wrong training, not great experiences, they're not gonna stay. Everybody wants to say, oh, they leave for $1. And I will tell you, having done recruiting for like 6 years and doing exit interviews, people are not leaving our industry because they get $1 more down the road. They're leaving because of the manager or because of the environment or because of the lack of support, which is, again, what fuels what I do.
That's when you're managing other facilities.
Yeah, on the
and trying to help
consulting
them with
side.
staffing.
Yeah. That, and I would say just helping them keep their census up because we have a lot of competition here. So it's hard that's where branding and marketing and figuring out what your niche is really comes in.
Yeah.
So many different elements.
But those two are lockstep for consulting. And then for Nested Story, I would say the hardest part is probably the death. You know, for me as a nurse, I've dealt with it my whole career. And you're never not sensitive to it, but you compartmentalize it and you find a way to move on. You know, it's like that you help them in that phase of their life. And then
a natural part of the cycle.
And you're like, you know, I was able to bring them to that point. I was able to support that family. But at Nested Story, it's much harder because those residents are grandparents. You know, I'm seeing them every day. I'm involved with their family. I love them. We still have those same obligations, but it's personal. It's not just I'm taking care of 14 ladies.
And
These
I
are
imagine
14
some
ladies.
you get really close to if you just click personality-wise.
Yeah. It gets hard. That's probably the hardest part. And then, you know, we've really gotten to know these families. And so we started this thing where we just kind of recognize we have the dates, their death anniversary dates on our calendar so that we can drop a line or, you know, something to the family just to,
Really?
But again, I don't want them to feel like they're forgotten. They're not forgotten. I mean, we love them all.
So even after they've left your facility, you'll still reach out to their families just to say we remember?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's beautiful.
That's so
That's what it's all about.
So what are some of the hardest lessons that you've learned since you've gone off and started your own consulting and then opened your dream assisted living, boutique assisted living facility? What are some of the biggest lessons that have come out of that?
I think some of the biggest lessons is, you know, I wish that I had maybe done more research or had more support from a female business owner from the sense of not making some key mistakes. I had great professional partnerships. You know, I had lots of women in business that had kind of gone before me and could say, hey, make sure you don't do X, Y, Z, or make sure you ask about this, which was helpful. But it kind of came in non-planned times.
Yeah.
And I am a planner as much as people would say I'm not. I really am. And I think being able to lay out more of a plan of like, this is what it looks like. This is my 30, 60, 90. We were fortunate enough when we kicked off the consulting company, I started with the one client and that was just like, boom. I was like 5 in a row. So I didn't really even have time to catch my breath and figure out what system was I going to use.
Yeah,
and how,
what's working, what isn't.
And so in hindsight, I would have kept it on the shelf maybe for a week or two to get, again, proof of concept. I need to make sure that it works. So that is one that I learned because then you're just trying to keep up. You're trying to keep up with the demands you made for owners and these clients, but then you're also on the back end trying to put yourself in order. You know, I got to get myself in
That's
order.
the advice that you share with others in a similar situation, like really be mindful of how quickly you're growing.
Yeah.
And it's okay to turn away a little bit of business just so you can
Get
grow.
things organized and
Yeah. And then learn the things, I didn't know, just entities, tax receipts, and, all the things that you don't realize are
yucky,
yeah.
not fun stuff.
Yeah, required. You learn just by trial and error. And so I think for me, that was definitely in the trenches, something I didn't have enough knowledge of. And I probably, now if I was to start another, business concept or whatever, I would definitely invest the time to make sure I had all that in a row before I, started executing the operation.
That's the thing about entrepreneurialism. Like, we don't know what we're doing. We're going with it. We're learning as we go. There's no set template to any of this. So we're trying to figure it out as we go.
It's one of those things where it's like, I'll just do a little consulting until I'm able to get something of our own, and it turned into this, okay, I have consulting and I have this on the, it's just, and it's great because I love helping facilities. I love helping people grow. I love going into facilities and seeing the total 180, being able to, it's hard. This industry is hard. Taking care of people is hard. The landscape has changed. The families are way different. I used to say sometimes if it was just taking care of the resident, that would be easy. It's
Family
it's the
complicates.
dynamics sometimes. And so giving them those tools, being able to help them with that, it's a wonderful, satisfying thing. On the assisted living side and having my own, I don't really have a lot of regret or things that I felt like, because I knew it. It was kind of like clear vision. Yeah. It was like we bought it, and in my head, like I said, I was already designing rooms, the day after we closed.
It was just a natural evolution.
And having the right partnerships and having the right providers along the way really helped. But that one was a lot easier for me. I mean, I would do a second one tomorrow. I mean, it's that
is that
rewarding.
where we're headed?
I don't know yet. We've got some challenges with the property that we bought. We thought we were going to be able to expand on it, and we really can't due to the zoning. And so it's a matter of do we look at something not close? There's a lot of factors that go into that. And honestly, Nested Story is so special. I'm totally fine with just having the room for the 14 ladies, and I don't know. We'll have to see.
Right?
We'll have to see what happens.
So you mentioned that, there's a lot of things you had to learn to be a business owner. It's like you knew your zone of genius, but then all those other components. And one of the reasons we decided to partner with weVENTURE is because people just don't know this resource is available. Yeah. And I mean, imagine if you could have walked in, it's free to ask questions, free business coaching, and you could ask legal, financial, any of those things. And then low cost programs that literally they'll sit with you and map out your customized QuickBooks for your business. I mean, it's so tailored. It's so amazing.
To each business owner.
I didn't know about them either, and I wish I did 10 years ago. I mean, just to have some solid grounded advice that would have saved me time and
heartache,
money and stress and
all the things.
And all the things. You don't know what you don't know.
It would have saved me too.
Yeah.
It's I've heard of weVENTURE, I've heard of the programs, but never really got involved. And honestly, when I started the businesses, I wasn't even thinking that there was a resource like that. It was more or less like, I just want to get this off the ground. I'm just going to forge my way. I happen to know this attorney. I know this person. And you just start
trying to put the pieces together.
Yeah, it definitely would have been more helpful to have the opportunity to sit down with somebody and say, this is what I've got. This is the vision. What are my next steps?
Yes, the next steps.
That would have been helpful.
Yeah, that would have been tremendous. Yeah.
I'm excited. I mean, even now, even after I was talking, for this podcast, it's kind of like there's still tools at weVENTURE that I probably should tap into. So,
for sure.
So I plan to, connect with them and try to see.
They even have the CEO community where you can. It's similar to their other programs where it's still there's a level of accountability and you're diving into deeper aspects of all your businesses. And what I didn't know too is that how many different levels of industry leaders are. So it's not just, solopreneurs or small businesses. There's mid-size, and I mean, they've grown tremendously. So it's like every industry, every level. It's really cool and special because it doesn't exist everywhere. But what they've built here is really unique, and we have access to it.
It's like I have a friend in Orlando who worked with Jamie and I for a number of years, and she reached out a couple weeks ago, and she's like, I'm really thinking that I'm going to start my own. She wanted to do a management company, but we've talked about it over the years. And she called and she said, I really just need your help. And I'm like, girl, I don't know if I'm the one to give you I'll tell you anything I know. I'll tell you everything. She's like, maybe you should start a new business to consult for. I'm like, no. just ask me your question. I'll give you the info for free. Like, I want to help you, but it'd be great to have like I don't think they have anything like that over in Orlando, but just to be able to give her some of those connections or tools too.
They might do an Orlando
virtual
branch,
calls
but
also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that after we were talking about this, I was like, you know what? But she was like, you should just start. And I said, no, again, whatever question you have, I'll answer. You should definitely do it. Go work for yourself. I said, the biggest thing I would say to you is don't wait. Everybody thinks I should do that, but I should do that, but, and the next thing you know, 5 years have gone by and you could have already jumped into it 5 years ago and figured out
life
your piece.
happens. Life never stops for you. There's no perfect timing to anything.
No perfect timing.
Think
It
about
doesn't-
babies and when no one's ready for that.
Yeah.
Business is the same way. You got to just make that decision to jump in.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, last question.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Stay humble.
Yeah.
I would say my grandmother, that was my grandma, and my mom. I would say my mom too, but stay humble. I truly believe everything's a blessing, and as soon as I have it, I could lose it like that. Life could happen, something could happen, and so I never take it for granted. And, do we get to do amazing things for people and with people, and does it feel good? Sure. But at the end of the day, it's not me. Like, I look at it truly like I'm a vessel. It's my mission field. I feel like I am blessed to have the knowledge and be able to have people trust me enough to bring their loved one or bring their problem or, hey, what do I do with this? Or, hey, we're not sure if we're ready. And I count every single one of those situations as like a blessing. Like, thanks God for giving me the opportunity to help this family, because if they didn't come to me, maybe they got, I don't look at it anything other than just, it's just me.
And you're really good at recognizing the little things, celebrating the moments. I will never forget.
Make memories.
She has this jar. And tell us about the jar, and then we'll
in my office, the one that's in my office.
Yes, this jar.
I found this
memory
jar, and I'm not as good at putting stuff in it because I'm not in the office nearly as much. We have an office up in Vieira, but it's a jar, and it's called Memories 365, and basically it's a big mason jar. And basically what you're supposed to do is anytime you have an event or you have something that makes you want to remember that, you take so I have a nail that I collected from Nested Story that was on the floor that's in the jar.
Nail.
And so the concept is you would collect something throughout the year, and at the end of the year you would count your blessings, right? You would see all your memories you've made or what did you accomplish or whatever. And it could be a program from something. It could be whatever, just to celebrate those milestones.
So cool.
And I'm not as good because I'm not in the office as much, but I do I remember when we did our 1 year anniversary party, I had taken we did a casino party. I took a poker chip and stuck that in there. And I have a wine cork in there because I remember a mastermind thing in the office with wine and a couple of my friends. It was just little things that you can go back and go, I remember that.
Yeah,
and I remember
it'll
that.
take you right back to that moment.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it grounds you,
right?
kind of
that
grounds
reflection, it makes you pause and think about.
Because I don't have time to journal. I don't have time to write. But being able to look at it and go, oh yeah, I remember that nail, or I remember that time that we were,
to celebrate those small moments and the big ones, but to have those memories. That is.
You should bring that into your consulting clients, to encourage that, because it's good. It's
Teach
so
them
good.
that intentionality is really. I think it's those little things. It's so powerful to be like, you know what, this is a memorable moment. I'm going to pin that.
Yeah, I think my goal over the course of however long I'm able to consult and be in this industry is really to bring the human side back, because I think we've taken ageism and we've made it a chore when it really is I was going to take our residents trick-or-treating on the 31st. If I had a way to take them and it wasn't Babcock Street.
Oh my God, you got to start this new thing.
Come on. Some of them were like, I don't remember trick-or-treating ever. I'm like, well, it would be how cute would it be to walk up to somebody's room and be like, trick-or-treat.
Oh my God, Stacey, please start this.
There's neighborhoods. Well, we're going to
Your costume looks so real.
But little things like give them those experiences. We did we do a farm stand, and then one of the other things that I did is oh my gosh, we did tie-dye. It was something so simple. I did a summer camp and did tie-dye, and I had one of my 91-year-olds go, I've never tie-dyed in my whole life. And I'm like,
she lived through the 60s.
And now you did. Just to give them some of their firsts. It's kind of cool. But I see them as they're people. They're not, they are older for sure, but they get to enjoy. I want to break down ageism. I want it to feel normal and natural. And I want the industry to go back to being less feeling of regulatory, serious, while you have to have those things, but make it more about the experiences for both the staff and the residents, makes it more fun, makes it an enjoyable field to come into.
Enjoy the journey, right?
Yeah, and making those memories and
Yeah.
those things that kind of ground you back to why you're doing it in the first place.
So
Because you don't get in this industry if you don't like people, or you shouldn't.
You shouldn't be.
I have told people before, go work in a cubicle. This is not your field.
Yes.
It's a different day every day.
I have lofty goals for this industry, and it's still as fun and exciting as it was 30 years ago.
That's
Well,
amazing
you're
to
leading.
hear.
You're leading the way. We need role models like you that are showing people that it can be done, and you're showing them how. So keep doing it. We support you. I'm
you.
so honored to know you. Thank you for sharing all of that with
You're
us.
welcome. Thanks for putting this together, and I'm excited to get to know more about weVENTURE and
Good.
plug some other
Call
people
them
into
up.
it too, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Her Story podcast, brought to you by weVENTURE Women's Business Center, a program of the Florida Tech Fisk College of Business, in partnership with our wonderful sponsors. Together, we are building a thriving and diverse small business ecosystem that enriches our entire community. At weVENTURE, we offer free business coaching, low and no-cost business education, mentorship, and leadership development programs to help you confidently launch and grow your business. Visit weventure.fit.edu to schedule your first free coaching session or learn more about our programs and services. No matter where you are on your entrepreneurial journey, you don't have to build alone. weVENTURE WBC would be honored to be a part of your success story.